I'm Roman, but some of my friends call me by my Chinese name, Luo Xiaodi, or in Cantonese, Luo Xiudai. Since late 2020, I'm producing a Chinese typeface called a Hong Kong street face, or港街黑. In this little video, I'd like to share how I'm actually working on this typeface. Here they are, the streets of Hong Kong, Kowloon, Choi Hong area. Actually the very spot where I first had the idea to digitally produce a typeface inspired by Hong Kong road markings on public highways, smeared onto the asphalt using a cement-like white color. With time, this typeface became a powerful symbol to me as to whatever happened on these streets during the last few years. They're not beautiful, but yet an inexplicable uniqueness emerges from these characters. However, designing thousands and thousands of glyphs is a very tiring process, so I decided for myself to divide the work into a series of smaller projects in order to reward me for keeping up the work, such as this little book, which is a new version of the 1,000-character classic 千字文. This age-old text consists of 1,000 characters, of which none is repeated. It was used by calligraphy students to practice. So if I use 千字文, the 1,000-character classic, in order to display the Hong Kong street face, it is a way to deliver the typeface from its banality and lift it up into the calligraphic context. The street cannot be ignored. On the last page, some characters are missing, so I need to draw them. I'm using the Glyphs app to do that. It's one of many tools in order to produce typefaces. And there's a lot of dispute about how to actually design Chinese characters, a lot of company knowledge, a lot of secret knowledge, and I don't have access to that so much. So what I'm basically doing is checking every glyph using the resources I have at hand, such as Wiktionary, which is the Wikipedia dictionary that lists many variants of glyphs, Chinese characters in their locals, such as, Japanese, traditional Chinese, simplified, Hong Kong variants, and Korean, of course. So first I need to check whether there are differences in the design for these locals, and right afterwards I can proceed to draw the glyphs. So here I am copying the earth radical, which I've put in place already using another glyph, and then add another element which is called smart component, and put it in place. Now everything has got to be adjusted using the smart settings of these glyphs. I'm going to show you how I prepare them in the first place later on. So another glyph is ready. Some further adjustments, because I think the earth radical is still too large. The other part's got to be larger. So now I think I've come to the point of where it's okay for me. Here's another character missing, so I need to check that as far as there might be any inconsistencies regarding the locals of this character. So I see there are some, but I don't need to take care of them because in my typeface, this given difference is not displayed. So it's the position of the upper stroke, which is different in some typefaces, but not in my typeface. So I don't need to take care of that. Now, another glyph has to be designed because it's a component of this glyph. So I need another glyph in order to put together all the elements of the actual character. So that's a huge bunch of work, is actually designing characters you don't really need in the first place, but you need them for other characters. So here it is, slight adjustments. And here's how the element works. So there's a width and a height, and these are like layers, and I need to design them in order to make the renderings possible, in order to be able to change the width and the height of the character with no limits, and still don't distort the character so much. So that's very important. And that's actually the main work that I'm doing. There's a lot of debate as to how far the smart component idea is going. Like, especially with more calligraphic style typefaces, it's not enough to do that. In my case, designing this pretty simple kind of typeface, sometimes I notice there are limits, but it actually works pretty well as to some point. If you're doing something more deliberate, something more calligraphic or whatever, you may notice this way of working may not be appropriate so much. So a lot of my Chinese friends tell me, hey, this is not the way we're doing Chinese characters, so we need to take more care of all these details. In my case, I'm trying out as to how far I can go. So I need to prepare this glyph in order to be placed into the other glyph. So I need a height parameter. Height, I'm sorry, not height. And this is it, because I've prepared the elements that I used in this character as well. So I just need to adjust them. And here it is, the man radical in the way I want this thing to work. And please note that these parameters can be pretty extreme, but they're rarely used as extreme, as extremely as I'm doing this here. So these are pretty ugly, but probably not in the instances I actually need in order to produce the glyphs. So here's the element 1, and I've made a parameter called volume in order to fit something into, to make it wider. And now I can fit this thing in and adjust it. So here's another character to do. I'm checking the variations. And for instance, here I should actually draw a variant for Taiwan of the right-hand side, which is the spoon radical, which in Taiwan has a straight stroke instead of that hook. So I think I'll have to do that in the future. But with Chinese characters, it's with many other things and big projects you're doing. So better do it quickly before you have to, before having to search for all the instances of an element you want to change. Here I'm adjusting the height parameter of this part, which I need for the other glyph. Again, I prefer to work with these elements such as if they were characters in their own right. But I know that not everybody agrees on that, so it's a question of debate. And fully okay, everybody's doing their own. Everybody has their own solutions in order to achieve their goals. Here are the parameters, the corner points, so to say. And now I can use the the arrow tool in order to roughly put it into place, and then use the metrics. I mean the digits in order to really make it precise, which is not really necessary. But I'm pedantic, so I'm sticking to that. But who's not pedantic when you're a type designer? We're terrible. So here it is. I'm still not very convinced of the lower part, which I might have to correct a little. But the advantage of these smart components is that you only needed to correct once and not, having to find all the instances and correct them again per hand. So it's got some advantage to do that. So here I'm, preparing the open type for the language-sensitive functions of a typeface. That is, that if you're using Adobe InDesign or another software, or even Microsoft Word, and select Chinese traditional Taiwan as a language, the specific glyphs will appear. Here, one glyph is missing yet. The Taiwanese glyph, which to me is the basis of the whole design, and the other locals such as Taiwan, then there's Japan, Korea, and simplified Chinese. It's all the same character, but there are slight differences in the layout. And it's a question of your design decision in order, as to how precisely cover that. I think it's part of the responsibility of what we're doing. So if you select Korean as a language, for instance, in InDesign or Microsoft Word, these glyphs will automatically appear. Export. Still doesn't take much time, but if you have several thousand characters, it can take some minutes to export. Then replace the new file with the old file. The old file with the new file. And sometimes InDesign notices in advance something is missing, so you just need to close that. And here they are. Not all of them, but I've designed 3 glyphs in this video, using my smart components, which could be optimized, but it's like doing this little project is a way of verifying what I'm doing in a much more critical way than actually, just heading on designing characters and characters and characters. You need to test them, you need to step back and take a look as to whether it really works. So I'd like to stop at this point and say thank you for all those interested